So Michael, you were nominated by your wife, and in her nomination form, which was a really well done form, she mentioned that you had kind of a tough upbringing. You were raised by your grandmother, did not really have a relationship with your father. How do you think that shaped who you were to become?
Well, that's a good question, and wasn't really aware she put that on there. I guess when I was a child, I probably saw it as more of a strike against me. But now that I'm older, I think I learned a lot of valuable lessons, perseverance. My wife would probably say I'm a little stubborn at times, but I have that innate desire to accomplish things. And many times, if someone's going to tell me no, that's the best motivator in the world. I'm going to prove to them and myself that I can accomplish things, get things done. And living with my grandmother, she was raised back in the Depression era, so she taught me a lot of valuable lessons about financial responsibility and a lot of common sense, I guess, ways of living that I may not have been exposed to. So overall, looking back, I wouldn't have changed anything.
And she mentioned that your grandmother often, she worked as a waitress, and so you were by yourself a lot, and I mean that could not have been easy for her as well. Do you think that maybe added to your ambition and your drive?
I think it did. I learned a lot of self-reliance, problem-solving skills. If I cut myself or hurt myself when I was at home, I had to deal with it on my own, and I think that made me a stronger person. I also learned a lot of what not to do. I made a lot of mistakes, but again, valuable life lessons that I think helped make me stronger, a better person along the way.
Now today you are the COO of CalTech. For those who don't know what CalTech is and what you do, talk a little bit about your company and your role there.
So CalTech, we're a IT provider. We focus mainly on financial institutions. We have a pretty good share of the market here in Texas. We have about 7 branch offices, about 100 people. Within the next couple months, we'll hit that mark. I started out just on entry-level technician, and throughout the years have worked my way up into management, and I've been in my current role about 3 years. So I oversee all the day-to-day operations. Really, if you want to look at it at a high level, responsible for customer satisfaction and service, and employee retention and customer retention. And so a lot of responsibilities under my umbrella, but I look forward to the challenge every day, and I work with a great group of people.
Now, before we began this, you were talking, prior to joining CalTech, you were working at Ethicon, and you took that entry-level position at CalTech, sort of betting on yourself that you would be able to advance in the company. Talk a little bit about sort of your thoughts at that time and how you managed to rise through the ranks as rapidly as you have.
Yeah, like you said, it was kind of betting on myself, so I took a little bit of a pay cut and a little bit of a lower rank starting in at CalTech. And at the time I told my wife I'd give it a year, but I really was confident I could persevere and make it through, and I had a lot of belief in the owners. They're good, genuine people, and I knew that if I worked really hard, and they would reward me. So I put my nose to the grindstone, and I had a professor at ASU. Right before we were about to graduate, he mentioned that a lot of us would graduate and we were going to go out into the world, and we thought that the world would owe us a living. And he said that's not the case. You're not going to start out at the top. So whether you're folding clothes or answering phones or driving a truck, whatever it is, be the best you can be. So I did that at CalTech. I decided whatever level I was at, I was going to be number one. And I just kept doing that and kept persevering. And anytime someone asked me to do something, I did it, whether it was doing statistical analysis for another manager to help him prepare for his meeting, or going out of state at the drop of a hat. I would do it, and eventually prove myself that I was really dedicated to the company. I invested in myself, and I believed in the culture, and I'd be a great fit for wherever they wanted to use me, and I think things have worked out pretty well.
And you said that entry-level position, that time in that position, has really served you well as a manager.
Yeah, it definitely gave me perspective for what engineers at all levels of our company deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so I think the biggest key, or I guess perspective that it gave me, is if we're looking to make a process change or introduce a new product, I'm much more inclined or apt to go get feedback from a tier 1 level engineer or their manager, and consider how it really affects them and how they're going to be able to service that product or technology, and not just make it without consulting people. I think that's probably the biggest key, and really that's a cultural deal at CalTech. it's a lot of team decisions and buy-in across the company. I think it leads to ultimately a happier company and better service and leaders throughout the organization.
And so what sort of leader do you try to be when you're at work?
I definitely try to be a servant-based leader. I focus probably on a couple of areas. I try to lead by example, and so I try not to ask anything of my team that I wouldn't do myself. And then I definitely want to make sure that they have all the tools, resources, training that they need to overcome any obstacle and do their job effectively. And then the second part's probably a little tricky. I demand excellence, and so I think a good leader nudges people out of their comfort zone. And so the really neat thing about that is as people stretch themselves in their capabilities and their desire, and they see success, your overall teams get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then people themselves grow and develop into leaders because they've achieved so many things, they've gained more confidence, and many things they've achieved they thought were impossible. So that's kind of my leadership style.
Is there an achievement that you're especially proud of during your time at CalTech?
There's an individual that started out underneath me. He was on Tier 1, and we do monthly coachings and interactions like that just to make sure that everyone's on track with their goals and supporting the department and the company goals. And this individual had some call center experience, and ultimately, long story short, we centralized our call center and we brought in a new phone system, really improved our call service. But through that coaching, I learned this individual had that experience, and we moved him in the management ranks, and he's taken our call center to great levels. So I like to see people develop and grow and do things they never thought were possible. That's probably the greatest achievement I have.
So when you're not at work, you devote a lot of time to coaching your kids, their soccer teams and their basketball teams through the city's recreation program, and we thank you for that. So why is it important to you not only perhaps coaching your own kids, but helping mentor other kids?
Well, I think sports is a good tone setter for life. You're going to learn to work hard, and most of the time if you work hard, you're going to be rewarded with better play. It doesn't always translate to a win, but if you tried your hardest and you know you did, I think you can sleep good at night. And then, you know, there's some kids that maybe that's all they have. And so this gives them a positive outlet for their energy and a positive place where they can spend their time. And, you know, some of the kids are over at our house every weekend, and, you know, they're pretty young right now, but I think that's setting a good example for them. I know they're safe with us, and they're going to have a good, positive environment to be in. And I just think it's good to help foster young people. And sports, I love it. You know, aside from all that, you get the benefit of physical fitness as well. So,
very good. You earned 2 degrees at Angelo State, a bachelor's and a master's degree, and for the past couple of years, you have volunteered with ASU's Guys Night Out event. Explain what that is and how you became involved in it.
Guys Night Out's an event. It's really steered towards the athletes, but any student, or especially males, can attend. But it's just teaching them about some of the pitfalls that many young adults can make, you know, in terms of bad decisions. Trying to give them good, solid advice, resources to help them if they get into a situation that they can't get out of, or they fear they may get into some trouble. The other part of that is they make it a really fun event. This year they had a ex-University of Tennessee football player just give an amazing speech. They had a magician, free food, raffle, tickets and prizes and things like that. So it's a good use of their time. It's once a year. It happens at the Janelle Center, and I really enjoy being a part of that. CalTech itself has a bigger purpose team, and so part of our initiative is to give over a 5-year period $1 million worth of time and money back to the communities that we live in. And so the ASU Guys Night Out is one of the initiatives that we help sponsor. So I gathered up a couple of my cheer managers, and we went out there and put bracelets on people and stood around and passed out and flyers or t-shirts, however we could be helpful. But, you know, I was there at one point, and if I can help kids make good decisions, I think it's time well spent.
So in your nomination form, your wife wrote about a lot of different civic activities and involvement and volunteerism that you have. How do you go about deciding what it is that you want to devote your time and your effort and your energies toward?
Yeah, that's a good question. Time is definitely limited. First and foremost, if it has something to do with children, that's always going to be at the top of my priority. And then from there, it just does that organization or that initiative align with my personal values, and that's kind of how I prioritize.
Your wife also wrote in your nomination that you never panic about anything. And then she said never, so as if to emphasize it. She said you can always be counted on to make a rational, research-based, and intelligence-driven decision. So where do you think that comes from?
Well, I'd like to take the credit from myself, but it doesn't. I think that comes back to my grandmother and just instilling me with confidence to take a step back and really analyze something. You know, I remember going to ASU, and it's real easy to sign off on a bunch of student loans and get yourself in a bunch of debt. But she said, you know, why don't you take a look at it and see how much money it is, see how much you could make if you picked up a second part-time job, or, you know, having me look forward to the future. And I think that gets lost sometimes. But I think that, and then the educators I've had at ASU, Dr. Chawla, he's now retired, but he was very influential on me. So I had a really good support system between my grandmother and then professors at ASU, and then Brent and Will, the owners of CalTech, really go above and beyond to help mentor me. So that's where I get a lot of that.
How do you define leadership?
Leadership is helping people achieve and focus on common goals that are probably larger than just their personal interests. And I think as a leader, it's my responsibility to put people in a position to succeed based on their skills or talents, and along with that, nurturing and coaching them as they come across obstacles, and not giving them the answers. That's not going to help anyone, but helping them problem solve on their own. And as they do that, they become more successful, and you know, I think I said it before, but hopefully grow them into leaders and themselves. So that's kind of my theory on leadership.
Michael, congratulations on being one of this year's 20 under 40.
Thank you very much.